I bought a guitar for $159. Which guitar is it, you ask? Well, it is the Squier Sonic Strat. Yep, I bought a Sonic Strat. I bought this guitar on a complete impulse. I didn't plan on buying it. I was just at Guitar Center filming some YouTube shorts, and I noticed that this guitar was on sale.
Yeah. So I just bought it. Let's see what my wife thinks. She doesn't know.
Now, a little while ago, I did a video called $1 versus $1,000 guitar, and in that video, I played 6 different guitars, some Squiers, some Fenders, and then I ranked them all. In that video, the Squier Sonic Strat came in last place. But we'll talk about why I wanted to buy this guitar in just a little bit. But first, let's talk about what this guitar actually is. So, this guitar is made by Squier. It's part of their Sonic series. This is a fairly new series. It sounds like it's going to be a limited time thing. Quality-wise, it falls below the Affinity series, so we're talking fairly entry level here. But they have some pretty cool configurations and colors that make them pretty cool guitars. So this particular model is the HSS configuration. So it has a humbucker pickup in the bridge, and then single coils in the middle and neck positions. It has a Laurel fretboard, and then everything else is pretty much your pretty typical Strat configuration. So volume, 2 tones, 5-way selector switch. Most of the components seem like the standard base model Squier components, like this tremolo bridge with the 6 screws. Also these tuners, these are the standard Squier tuners. And the most important part, lime green. So how does this guitar sound? Well, it sounds okay. I'm not really sure about the specs on these pickups. I'm not sure if these are any different than the pickups that Squier has been using over the years. I do own a Squier Strat that I bought like, I don't know, 20 years ago or something, but I hardly play it because it looks like this. I've since taken it apart and built this thing, which I use for making weird guitars out of. And so I don't really play it like a Strat anymore. But these pickups sound pretty comparable to that. You get the Fender tone to a certain extent. Like if you're digging in, you're playing strong, the pickups sound pretty good. But once you lighten up and you try to play with dynamics, it kind of like loses its like, it starts to sound a little two-dimensional. Like when you play a nice high-end Fender and you play light and with dynamics, it sounds like so good. But on this guitar, when you play light, it just kind of wimps out. And I've been thinking about this because I know that like people say like, you know, there's high output pickups, low output pickups, and some people are like, low output pickups are like what you want, they sound so good. With this, I don't know if it's low output or just low sensitivity. It just seems like these pickups like don't pick up like the full range of like all the overtones or whatever. It's just like a very, I don't know, just kind of like a plain kind of sound. Tone-wise, it's maybe a 5.5 or a 6 out of 10. Honestly, it's like the least of my concerns because I plan on replacing these pickups anyways. But if you are interested in a guitar like this, I also recommend replacing the pickups. Now, one thing that I do care a lot about is the neck and fretboard, particularly the frets themselves. One of the things with like inexpensive guitars is that they don't spend a lot of time, you know, like finishing them or like really refining them, you know? And so a lot of times on these cheaper guitars, the frets will stick out from the fretboard and they end up just having these like sharp edges that you definitely feel when you're playing. You kind of want to try to play the guitars and find one that like doesn't have frets that stick out very far. On the Squier Sonics that I've played, it seems kind of hit or miss. Like some are really bad and some are like perfect. This one, the frets actually do stick out pretty far. And yeah, it was actually so bad that one of the first days that I was playing it, I was filming a YouTube short and I was playing it so much trying to get a good take that the frets literally, like my finger was bleeding.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's from the frets.
One thing that I was really happy with this guitar was that it's actually set up pretty well right out of the box. And I literally took it out of the box, tuned it, and have been playing it just like that ever since.
Why does my guitar cause reproductive harm?
These are the original strings, and I haven't touched the action or the truss rod or anything. It definitely needs some love, but honestly, like right out of the box, it's been pretty good, especially intonation, like surprisingly good. This brings us to the point in the video where we ask the question, do you need to spend a lot of money on a guitar, or would something cheaper be good enough? And here's my honest advice. I recommend buying the nicest guitar that you can afford within reason. And I say that because sometimes people will say, when you're a beginner or just starting, just get a really cheap guitar, practice on that, and as you get better, then you can upgrade to a better guitar. The problem with that though is that a lot of cheap guitars are really hard to play because they're not made very well, and they're hard to play even for an experienced guitarist. And if you're buying one of those guitars and trying to learn on them, it just like everything is working against you. And so I highly recommend getting the nicest guitar that you can. It'll just make everything so much better. However, a more expensive guitar is not always the better guitar. Sometimes more expensive guitars, you pick them up, they just don't feel right, or they just don't sound as good as you wanted. And really my 2 criteria for what make a good guitar, it needs to sound good and it needs to feel good. And as long as the guitar sounds good and it feels good, then it is good, at least for you. And for me, when I was at Guitar Center, I saw this guitar and I looked at it and said, that is a fun guitar. And I bought it. And I've been playing it ever since. And you know what? It doesn't matter how much your guitar costs. All that matters is that you have a guitar that you love to play. Because at the end of the day, as guitarists, the only thing that matters is that we actually play our guitars, right? I'm gonna leave it at that, guys. If you haven't seen my $1 versus $1,000 guitar video yet, be sure to check it out. I'll put the link up here. It was so fun to make. Okay, guys, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.